Welcome, fellow Phoenixes, to the Spiritual Phoenix Podcast, where we make a daily offering to the divine by putting our past on the pyre, searching the smoke for spirituality, adapting isolation into connection, and manifesting mental wellness. I'm your host, Ross Cessna, and first off, I'd like to take a moment just for focus on what we're grateful for. One thing that I'm grateful for today is just the new connections in my life. I've had the pleasure of meeting a couple new people in my life, and they're all relatively on some similar wavelength in some capacity, and that's pretty refreshing. The area that I live in, there isn't an abundance of people like me that I've found, so it's nice to find people that tend to be a little bit more philosophical, a little bit more spiritual, a little bit more open in how they think about things, because it's not common in this area in my experience. And I don't want to downplay people by any means, but other places I've lived have had a lot more open-minded people. So with that, I'd like to get into today's topic, which is removing our masks. And I have a quote queued up, and it's self-acceptance is my refusal to be in an adversarial relationship to myself. And that was said by Nathaniel Braden. And I wrote a little bit of a start of an article on the topic of masks. And I could never learn to be myself until I learned not to be who I thought I was. That involved not only destroying the mask I created, but also finding and removing the mask behind the masks. The issue with masks is they prevent the light in front of us from reaching us and trap us in their shadows. In order to remove the masks, I had to release my own inner darkness and tame it. My spark of light lay in the depths of a fathomless abyss. Now that I possess it, I must not be foolish enough to put the light in front of me and cast a shadow on my past, nor can I put the light behind me. Rather, I must place the light beside me so my shadow walks side by side as well. My truth self was found where the light and the dark touch. And my real first mask that I ever acquired was this attention-seeking mask, and that was from being sick all the time. And it when I was younger, and when I started to get healthier, I started to feign sickness. I started to lie to get attention and those kind of things. As my life progressed, I began to build a mask shaped off of other people. And I'll call that my iron mask. And that was the mask that wouldn't let me talk about how I was feeling inside. That was the mask that I built up for people making fun of me for expressing myself. That was the mask that really limited my ability to be happy in every way. And that mask stuck with me for a very long time. I've only recently been able to really pull it off, because there were so many other masks that were layered on top of that one. The other masks that I had developed over time was the mask of an addict. I used to think that getting as drunk as I possibly could, or doing as many drugs, like smoking as much pot or taking as many psychedelics or things like that as I could handle, was cool. And I don't want to downplay drug use for people that do it, because I think that there can be some benefit in it. For me, as an individual, I can no longer do them successfully. And that's just me. It's not my position to determine what's appropriate for anybody else but me. As long as people aren't hurting other people, that's not my position to have an opinion about it. The other masks that I created for myself was this mask of extreme ego, or saying the term no worries and not actually meaning it, having a bunch of worries, and just trying to portray this cool, calm, collect person when inside I was at turmoil. I was at war with myself inside. And I really only began to find serenity with myself when I started to actually release the darkness in me and learn to control it and channel it. The other masks that I have would be just this mask of somebody who, the mental illness mask even, and falling into that trap of thinking that every one of my actions or responses at one point was relative to my mental illness, and losing who I really am through that. I mean, after my experiences with mental illness, I didn't know who I was for the longest time afterwards. And it really took a lot of soul searching, sobriety or clean time, and honesty with myself, and having to accept the fact that I'm never going to be quote unquote perfect. And what a burden that would be. I'm never going to be extremely pious. I can work towards that. That's a lofty goal to achieve, in my opinion. I'd like to be the best person I can be, and I try to do that daily. And now that I have the masks that I'm aware of off, there likely may still be other ones. I mean, you can't see all of yourself. You can only see yourself from a limited perspective. It goes back to the analogy I've used before of standing on an iceberg when it's snowing. So whenever you uncover one thing, there's more things that are being covered up. And then there's this whole other beast under the surface. I like me today. I don't always do the right thing. I make mistakes frequently. The difference now being I accept my mistakes when I make them, and I apologize as quickly as I'm able to accept the fact that I had a misjudgment, I misspoke, a misdeed, whatever it may be, because if I don't acknowledge those things, that's putting up a whole nother mask. And I'd rather be open about my experiences, open about my mistakes, open about my successes, open about everything, because it keeps me in check. The soul sick part of me likes to lie. It likes to hide things. It likes to deceive. Even myself, it likes to deceive. I really am at a point to where I just want to express what I'm feeling when I feel it to the people that I feel those things about, or how people make me feel. And granted, I can't express everything that I feel though either, because I've learned that part of my soul sickness is having the absolute wrong outlook on some situations. I'm not wrong all the time. I'm not right all the time though either. And one of the greatest gifts that I've been given has been the ability to sit back and learn from my mistakes, really. I'm able now to, at some points, stop and think about what I want to say before I say it. Sometimes it takes a day before I say what I want to say, because I have to really ponder over how I should react. Sometimes I instantly know that I'm better off not saying anything. So I'm no longer hiding behind the masks. It's just me and the light and the dark on one side. There's sunlight in front of me, there's light behind me, there's shadows in front of me, there's shadows behind me. It's all there, and it always will be. The thing is, in my opinion, a lot of people don't want to accept or acknowledge the darkness that they have within them. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe not everybody has a dark side to them. Maybe there are some people that are completely pious. I find that hard to believe. But I've only seen this world through one set of lenses, and that would be my left and right eye. And from what I understand, other people have had similar experiences in all walks of life, in all faiths, all sexes, all creeds, everything. People have had the exact same experiences I have had. Some people are better suited, and they don't go down as they don't have to dig down as deep into the abyss as I did, and maybe some don't have to at all. I would like to think that that is true, that some people just get it right away, and they're humble, they're respectful, they're appreciative. I had to work for this, and I had to sacrifice myself in who I thought I was in lots of ways. I even at one point had a mask that I found when I was in psychosis. It was a part of a tree bark, and it looked like a mask, and I could wear it like a mask. And to me, it was I perceived it to be like the mask of Loki, or like the troublemaker, trickster god. I think that's Hawaiian mythology. And during that time, I was in a very, very dark place, and I really exhibited a lot of darkness and thought and writing and everything. And eventually I got to the point where I burned that mask. And I don't want to say that that's really when everything changed, the moment I burned the mask, but that was around the turning point of that psychosis, where it started to shift to a more positive direction. And I think I've spoken on this topic as much as I really can. And I'm using a service called PodTrack for just to see who's listening, how many downloads and things like that I get. And they've asked me to request a listener survey. Now, I'll put the link in the description of this video, and also the podcast channel on SoundCloud. There's a short version, and then there's the standard version. If you could fill out any one of those, it would be greatly appreciated. I'm also going to start writing up the concept for a Unity-based art project, which will be done on 5x5s, with the ultimate goal being connecting them together and having a piece of art that anybody who wants to can contribute to, as long as they follow some specific guidelines for continuity's sake. And the fun thing about this project is that it will be organic, in the sense that there will be one starting point, but maybe eventually we can even shift that so there's more than one starting point. And the paintings will be able to be intermixed to where it can be a different piece of art over time. So it might be arranged one way one week, the next week it'll be a different way. Also, if you would like to get paid to respond to this podcast via writing, you could even make videos and post it. As long as you can write at least 5 sentences in English, you can make some money for sharing your opinion about this podcast. And that's not through PodTrack, that's through another service where I'll place a link down below. Even if you like what I'm doing and you just want to help support me, if you sign up for the link for paid writing and you write 5 sentences of your opinion on something that's not even relative to the blog, you'll make me $1, and you can also earn some money for yourself. I'm not asking for handouts by any means. I'm doing this because I like doing it. If I don't get any money from it, I'm still going to do this because it's fun for me. With that, I'd like to say love and light. Namaste.